Her grandmother did not have a supplement budget. She had a stock pot, a few bones from the butcher that cost almost nothing, and a kitchen habit passed down without explanation. Simmer until the liquid gels, add the vegetables, drink it warm. What she did not know, and what the science has only confirmed recently, is that she was feeding her joints something no pharmacy has managed to replicate in a capsule. Cartilage does not heal itself the way muscle does. It has no direct blood supply, which means every repair cycle depends entirely on what nutrients seep into it from surrounding tissue. After 50, women lose cartilage 3 times faster than men, not because of aging alone, but because estrogen was running the construction crew. Estrogen directly stimulates the cells that produce collagen and the proteins that give cartilage its density and springiness. When estrogen drops, the construction crew goes home. The knees feel it first because they absorb the full force of every step with almost no margin for error. And once the rebuilding signal weakens, the gap opens faster there than anywhere else in the body. What the women of the 1950s had, without knowing the mechanism, was a daily supply of exactly what cartilage is built from: collagen peptides, gelatin, glucosamine, chondroitin, glycine, not as capsules in a bottle, as dissolved connective tissue from bones that had simmered for hours. The modern diet stripped those nutrients out when convenience food took over. What was lost was not just tradition, it was a structural signal the joints had been counting on. Here are 12 broths from that era, each one delivering something specific, none requiring a recipe book. The first is chicken feet broth, and this is the one most women skip because of how it looks, which is a mistake. Chicken feet are almost entirely connective tissue. There is almost no meat, almost no fat, just skin, tendons, and cartilage wrapped around small bones. That means when you simmer them, what comes out is concentrated glucosamine and type 2 collagen, exactly the collagen found inside joint cartilage itself, not surrounding it. Think of glucosamine as the material that gives the rubber padding in your knee its spring back. Without enough of it, the padding compresses but does not return to its full height. Chicken feet broth gels completely solid when cold. That gel is your cartilage's raw material in liquid form. The second broth is made from beef knee bones. Your grandmother asked the butcher for knee bones specifically, and whether she knew it or not, that specificity mattered. Beef knee joints are dense with the same cartilage that lines your own knees. A long simmer breaks it down into collagen peptides that the body absorbs and redirects toward joints already under stress. A 2008 study from Penn State found that athletes who consumed collagen peptides daily showed significantly reduced joint discomfort over 24 weeks. Beef knee broth delivers those same peptides from a cut that was historically considered scraps. The darker and firmer the finished broth, the denser the collagen load. The third broth is oxtail, and it sets firmer than almost anything else you can make. Oxtail is almost entirely connective tissue wrapped around bone, very little actual meat, which means a long simmer pulls nearly pure gelatin into the liquid. Gelatin is dissolved collagen. When your gut absorbs it, it breaks apart into glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, the 3 amino acids your body uses to manufacture new collagen fibers. Think of these 3 as the only raw materials your joints will accept for reconstruction. Your body cannot substitute anything else. Oxtail delivers all 3, pre-dissolved, in a form that requires almost no digestive work to absorb. Marrow bones are different from the others. The marrow inside a beef femur is not just fat. It contains growth factors that signal bone-forming cells and help maintain the structural tissue lining joint cavities. Roast the femur lengthwise before simmering. The heat unlocks fat-soluble compounds that dissolve poorly in raw liquid. The finished broth carries compounds from the marrow fat that modulate the immune signaling governing joint inflammation. This is not anti-inflammatory in the way a painkiller is. It is upstream. It works on the signal that decides whether inflammation turns on in the first place, not on the inflammation after it has already started. Veal knuckle broth targets something estrogen was quietly doing that most women never knew to credit it for. maintaining chondroitin sulfate levels inside joint tissue. Chondroitin is what keeps cartilage hydrated. Think of cartilage as a sponge that holds water to stay soft and compressible. Chondroitin is what keeps that sponge from drying out and cracking under load. Veal knuckle has the highest chondroitin concentration of any commonly available cut. After menopause, chondroitin levels fall alongside estrogen. Veal knuckle broth simmered for 8 to 10 hours delivers chondroitin in a bioavailable form that supplements struggle to match because the fat-soluble cofactors that help absorption arrive in the same liquid. This is actually the gap I built, strong past the drop around. I kept watching women understand exactly what was happening in their joints and still not be able to turn that understanding into anything that changed how their knees felt week to week. The program is 8 weeks. Muscle-first meals, short walks timed specifically to the body's rebuilding window, simple leg strength routines, and food timing mapped to how a post-menopausal body actually processes protein. CTA 1. It is on screen. There are 6 more broths in this list, and the next one is the only one that addresses both sides of the problem at once, the building shortage and the demolition crew running ahead of it. Fish head broth is the only broth in this list that delivers anti-inflammatory compounds and structural collagen simultaneously. The collagen in fish is type 1, the same type found in the tendons and ligaments surrounding the knee, not just the cartilage pad itself. The omega-3 fatty acids embedded in the fish fat work at the prostaglandin level, suppressing the inflammatory cascade that accelerates cartilage breakdown. Joint damage is not only a supply problem, it is also a demolition problem. Inflammation breaks cartilage down faster than the body can rebuild it, and no amount of collagen peptides can close that gap if the demolition crew is running ahead. Fish head broth slows the crew and restocks the supply in the same pot. Turkey neck broth is the one that surprises people who have never thought to make it. A turkey neck contains both the vertebral cartilage of the neck joints and the ligament tissue running alongside it. Simmer them together and both dissolve, delivering glucosamine and chondroitin simultaneously into the same broth. A 2006 trial from the National Institutes of Health found that glucosamine and chondroitin together outperformed either compound alone for moderate to severe joint discomfort. Turkey neck broth delivers the combination from a single cut that costs almost nothing. It also releases an unusually high glycine load. And glycine is the amino acid that anchors every third position in the collagen helix. Without enough of it, the entire structure cannot close properly. Pork trotters have more collagen per pound than almost any other cut available, including beef bones. The skin, tendons, ligaments, and small cartilages of the foot are essentially a concentrated collagen delivery system wrapped around bone. Trotters are dense in type 1 and type 3 collagen, the types that form the ligaments and tendons holding the knee joint in alignment. Knee pain is not always a cartilage problem. Often it begins in the surrounding architecture. Ligaments and tendons weaken first, the joint loses stability, and then the cartilage pays the price of absorbing forces it was never meant to absorb alone. Trotter broth supplies the building material for both layers simultaneously. Lamb shank is the one broth on this list that most joint discussions skip entirely. And the reason it matters is something that almost never comes up when people talk about cartilage: selenium. Grass-fed lamb is a meaningful source of selenium bound inside the connective tissue and marrow. Selenium is the cofactor for glutathione peroxidase, the enzyme that neutralizes oxidative stress inside joint tissue. Think of oxidative stress as rust forming inside the hinge. Glutathione is the rust remover. Without enough selenium, the rust remover runs low, and cartilage ages faster regardless of how much collagen you are consuming. Lamb shank delivers selenium in organic form, alongside glycine and proline, in a single, long simmer. Ham hock broth has some of the highest glycine concentrations of any traditional broth, and glycine is the amino acid that occupies every third position in the collagen helix. The entire architecture of collagen depends on glycine availability. What makes ham hock specifically useful for women over 50 is that glycine also supports slow-wave sleep, the stage where growth hormone peaks and tissue repair happens at its most active. Your joints are rebuilt overnight. They need the hormonal signal and the raw material to arrive at the same time. Ham hock broth delivers the raw material with almost no effort: a long simmer, a cheap cut, and a stock pot your grandmother owned until the day she died. Duck frame broth does something structurally different from the others. Duck fat stabilizes cell membranes in a way that matters specifically for the synovial membrane, the lining of the knee joint cavity that produces synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is the lubricant that prevents bone-on-bone contact. Think of it as the oil in the hinge. When that membrane is chronically inflamed or poorly nourished, fluid production drops and the joint begins running dry. Duck frame broth is also unusually high in taurine and cysteine, two sulfur-containing amino acids that reinforce antioxidant defenses inside joint tissue specifically. This broth does not gel as hard as oxtail, but the fat composition and the amino acid profile are doing something different and specific that the harder gelling broths cannot replicate. The 12th broth is the simplest and the one your grandmother made most often. A chicken carcass simmered with 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar added to the cold water before the heat goes on. She did not add the vinegar for flavor. She added it because someone older told her to. The acid breaks down the calcium and phosphorus locked inside the bone matrix and pulls them into the liquid in ionic form, the most bioavailable form those minerals come in. This matters for knees because cartilage does not float in space. It rests on subchondral bone, the hard layer directly beneath it. When that layer degrades silently, cartilage loses its structural foundation and breaks down faster, regardless of what else reaches it. The vinegar step no one ever explained was protecting that foundation. Soak the carcass in cold water with the vinegar for 30 minutes before turning on the heat. Then simmer for at least 12 hours. Let it cool until it gels completely before storing. What all 12 broths share is something a supplement bottle cannot reproduce. Every compound the joint needs arriving together. In a liquid the gut was designed to absorb, without a manufacturing process standing between the animal and the pot. Your grandmother's kitchen was not primitive. It was using technology so old we stopped recognizing it as technology. The knees that carry you through the next 30 years are being built from what you feed them now. You understand now what cartilage actually needs after estrogen drops, and why the kitchen your grandmother kept was doing something her doctor never prescribed. The next question is what to build around that knowledge: the daily structure, the strength signal, the timing. That actually changes what your body does with those raw materials. That is the gap. Strong past the drop was built to close. I put it together watching too many women understand exactly what was happening in their joints and still not know how to translate that into a Monday morning routine. It is 8 weeks, muscle-first meals, short strategic walks, a simple leg strength sequence, and food timing mapped specifically to how a post-menopausal body processes protein and rebuilds tissue. It costs something because building 8 weeks of specific structure took real time to do right. CTA2